I'm joined by Larry Foley here at Cook and Brew for the barrier draw. We've just had the barrier draw for the Kranji Mile for 2019. And Larry, first off, good to see you. And any great surprises there at the barrier draw?
It's great to see you too, Nick. No surprises. Steve LeVar was pretty happy drawing one, and suggested that last start he might have won, which is interesting.
It certainly was. King Louis that little bit unlucky in the run. Let's talk about some of the so-called leading players. Obviously we've got two runners from Hong Kong, both Southern Legend and Singapore Sling. They've drawn basically either end of the spectrum as far as the stalls are concerned. 2 for Southern Legend and 10 for Singapore Sling.
So cutting to the chase, Southern Legend's drawn where he should draw. He drew well last year, went to the front and pretty well just dictated terms and won under Zach Burton. We're going to expect similar. However, Singapore Sling in 10's no dramas because Count Monte Cristo will probably go forward from 9. He's got the blinkers on. He raced back last start, but that wasn't by design. So he'll go forward from barrier 10. So it's just a matter, barrier 9, and it's just a matter of where Singapore Sling either goes past him or sits behind him. So perfect for both Hong Kong horses, in my opinion, and no dramas with the barrier draw whatsoever.
And are we thinking just sort of copybook of 12 months ago with Southern Legend? I mean, he got a lovely run round last year.
The odds is the funny thing for me because Southern Legend is favourite just now, but that run of Singapore Sling behind Beauty Generation, once the Hong Kong punters, which I presume we're commingling, jump on that, I expect Singapore Sling to start a short price favourite, maybe even in the red, and Southern Legend to be sort of just a tad over even money. And you can write your own ticket on the rest. I know Debt Collector will get support because I think you've put him on top and he'll be the crowd favourite, but I think that was your heart over the brain.
But, okay, yes, it probably more than likely was.
Yeah.
But no, I had a long deliberation over the race and had a long look at it.
How long?
Long enough, long enough. But look, on what he's done leading up to this year's race, he didn't run it 12 months ago, but Michael Rodd's gone on record and Cliff Brown have said he's as good as ever, if not better at his best. So can he beat these Hong Kong horses? Or are you strictly of the opinion
I honestly
that
don't think he can, and I'm happy Cliff and Michael is my favourite horse. The crowd will just be erupting. If he's close enough at the 300, and perhaps Count Monte Cristo takes them on early enough to cause a bit of havoc up front, and if it's run at a super clip, which it probably will be, and if Debt Collector's I'll say at the 300 metre mark, if he's getting wound up and he's close enough, he may make ground, but gee, it's hard to make ground up on horses that have run second to Beauty Generation and Dubai Cup against Arm and Eye. These horses are the best in the world.
No, they're very good indeed. So the Hong Kong horses clearly with a very, very strong hand again this year. Debt Collector leads our local contingent. What about one at a bit of a price? I'm not sure if we're going to get a price about, I suppose we will, given there's going to be quite a big market share for the top 2 or 3. You're a big fan of Count of Monte Cristo's. Is he likely to be a bit of value?
I thought he was stiff last time behind Debt Collector over the mile. He's going to go forward from the wide gate. He's got blinkers on. At least he's going to be in the mix with the 2 Hong Kong horses. So if he's having a good day, he's a nice horse. I think he's the best of the locals, and looking at the early books, he's decent odds. So I think he'll start at a price.
Indeed, and just maybe beyond that, is there the one there that you probably think, well, what about the Moonbeam Vase winner, Elite Excalibur? He doesn't quite do it.
No, the Moonbeam Vase was at a condition weight,
course,
and he came in. He was best in at the weights,
yes,
so it was not a no-brainer that he won. But if he was going to win, that was the time. So this is at set weights, and I think he'll run okay, but it's going to be in the mix with the other locals, to be honest.
Yeah. So to coin a phrase from Tom Wood, one of our former colleagues, Hong Kong again.
Hong Kong again.
Hong Kong again for Larry Foley. It isn't just the Kranji Mile though on Saturday. We've got 3 Group 1s, the barrier draw having been conducted for the Kranji Mile here this afternoon, but we've already had the draws for the Lion City Cup and also the Guineas. We'll start with the sprint, Larry. Another small field, but in the shape of a small field, it's a quality one, and we've got the winner from the last couple of years, Limbs Cruiser, and he's going to be ridden by that man Purton. Yeah,
and I think Zach can make it 2 Group 1s for the day for sure. I think Limbs Cruiser will start odds on. Yeah. He's just a Monty at the weight for age conditions. He gets pretty well a 5.5 kilo swing against both Bold Thruster and Mr. Yo, who are thereabouts with him in the Rocket Man. And so just on weights, he wins. He's won the race before. Just a super horse.
Bit of rain will suit him.
Hopefully he wins and goes on to Ascot.
Yeah, well, I hope so. We'll be following his progress there. What of this young pretender then, Bold Truster? Before we get onto a few that I know you're quite keen on in the respect that where they've come from.
Yep.
Bold Truster, he is the sort of the new kid on the block, really, isn't he?
He's a star, and he'll be the next. So Mr. Yo was in the bypassed the Guineas last year to go in the Lion City as a 3-year-old. It's a tough ask, even though you get a tiny weight pool. Was it 1.5 kilos?
1.5.
And that's not a lot, considering you're up against the likes of Limbs Cruiser, who's won the race 2 times in a row. So Bold Thruster, I think, can win because he's a star, but he'll be better, obviously, next year and the year after. So at the last race, he carried 50 kilos, and that's just obviously a huge factor.
It is indeed, and obviously just going back to Limbs Cruiser, Larry, you saw Rocket Man. He won 4 of these. If Limbs Cruiser is successful on Saturday evening, he'll be only the second horse to win more than 2. Can you draw any comparison between both horses?
He wouldn't blow wind up Rocket Man's backside as far as I'm concerned, to be honest, and all due respect to Limbs Cruiser, but Rocket Man was one out of the box.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
He went everywhere and never disgraced himself. I think even the time in Japan, where probably the only time he ran badly, it was I think there was a half an hour delay for the race, and anyway, he prances or whatever. So Rocket Man was one out of the box, but Limbs Cruiser is the best we've got.
Is he the best sprinter since Rocket Man?
Oh, I'll say yes. I think he did well in the Hong Kong International. He worked home well, and I think he'll go a good side at Royal Ascot if he goes.
Yeah, indeed. I think that straight 6 furlongs would suit him, and any rain would also be a big bonus for Limbs Cruiser. He's drawn gate 5, and I know Stephen Gray, having spoke to him, was quite happy with that barrier. Right, WA form, okay? And I know these horses have been here, and they've certainly raced well in Singapore. One such horse, Nimble, is unbeaten in 5, and we've also got Gingerella. Let's start with Nimble. Let's go back to the beginning.
All right,
What can you
Nimble
tell us about Nimble?
was called the Shoe when it won in Pinjarra, I believe. Couldn't win in town. It was owned by some friends. There's a bar in Perth called the Shoe.
I remember you telling me.
So they named the horses after the bars they own. The Shoe, they probably sold it because it wasn't winning in Perth. It's come up here and won 5 straight, and I haven't picked it on all 5 starts, to be honest, because you're thinking, oh, Pinjarra form's not going to hold up. It wins. Steps up in class, it wins again. Up in class, it wins again. This is a huge test, but 5 straight wins, is it?
5 straight.
It's hard to argue with, so he's going to run a good race. I think Gingerella's better than him, though.
Yep.
She gets the 1.5 pull in the weights.
Correct, yeah.
And her, even though she's run second the last 2 starts, they've been pretty good seconds.
They have indeed.
And I think she'll be in the mix.
For sure, and interesting, she's a gingerbread man, as the name suggests.
Yeah,
and
that's
obviously Gingerbread Man won a Guineas for Joe Giovanni.
Yeah, and also Count of Monte Cristo, obviously in the same colours as in the Cranji Mile. Joe, good on Joe, he bought Gingerbread Man, sold it to stud in WA, and then went back and bought quite a few yearlings through Gingerbread Man, and they're going okay.
They are going very well. So Nimble and Gingerella too. Decent chances, I think, at prices potentially. Nimble has drawn 7. Gingerella next door in gate at number 8. We'd be remiss of us not to mention a recent trial winner, Aramco. He's really turned a corner since this race 12 months ago.
Yeah, I miss him a lot. As in, I miss him picking him.
Okay.
His form's beautiful.
I thought you had some sort of emotional attachment
No,
to him.
I miss a lot of things, but not Aramco. So he won first up. He's got a good first up record. This is obviously tougher, but he's up there in the race. He's the second highest rated horse. I actually like Clarton Super, fresh.
Right, okay.
I think he's a really nice horse, and I think he might run a race at odds, fresh, and maybe can't win, but he'll certainly be in the mix.
Yeah, Clarton Super has won a couple of group races, a Group 2, E.W. Barker, and also a Fortune Bowl as well. It's absolutely littered with group success this race. It really is, and well, for me anyway, it was Limbs Cruiser. I can't really see past him, to be fair.
No, you can't pick against him.
Indeed, Limbs Cruiser, a strong chance in the
Scotty Bailey's
sprint.
picking against him, obviously.
Oh, naturally.
And I believe there's hats going to be made if he does knock in a Group 1.
Yeah, for sure. Shane Birchke with a pretty decent hand actually on Saturday night in maybe lifting that first Group 1. That's the Rocket Man. The Lion City. Obviously with Rocket Man 4 minute. The Cranji Mile. the Guineas is the biggest field of the three.
Yep.
I think, and having looked at this race, I find this probably the most interesting of them all, really.
I think it's the best race on paper for the punters. So, again, the Hong Kong horses should dominate the Kranji Mile.
Yeah.
Limbs Cruiser should dominate the sprint, and it's not a great sprint field, in my humble opinion.
Okay.
The Guineas is a beauty. It's got chances from Top Night will probably start close to even money, and deservedly so, because it's crying out for the mile, and it won over 1,400 metres. It's drawn awkwardly, but I don't think that's an issue. Vlad will have it in a good position, and I think he'll be flying late and very hard to hold out. But take him out, you can make a case for about 10 others over the mile, and it just looks a really good race on paper.
Yeah, it's interesting. You say 10 others. There are 10 that ran behind it, or 10 coming out of the Classic. Obviously 9 that ran behind him. Of some of the beaten brigade, Macam Lad ran second, and we had Elite Incredible run third, and there was also the fourth place getter was Cyan Blue Vander. And I spoke to Ben Thompson earlier this week. He was pretty keen on Cyan Blue Vander.
Okay, Cyan Blue Vander's my bet of the race.
Yep.
I'll be backing him each way as far as if I was having a bet, because the mile just looks perfect for him. He's been running on beautifully. Yeah. I spoke to Michael Clements. Michael said he's just been a new horse, basically. And I think he'll drift out to sort of each way odds. You can make a case for this. It's funny with the Classic from last year. Some of the horses from the Classic that had won the Classic didn't do well in the Guineas, stepping up to the mile. And I think Macam Lad might be one of those.
I think he's vulnerable.
It led over the 14, got nutted. Nice horse that'll probably lead again and be there somewhere, but the mile might test. And then you can make a case for a couple down there. There's one horse right down there. The is it Gold Star?
Gold Star, yeah. He ran 5th.
And also got a check. I'm quite happy to think that he improves at odds. And then there's even Hardcore down the bottom.
Yeah, it's a fascinating race.
It is a great race.
A couple of apprentices riding in the race, CC Wong and Amaral. CC Wong riding Macam Lad, who ran second in the Classic. Stephen Gray, you went on record on Twitter saying he rarely walks away from a big day, this day, without a couple of winners. Limbs Cruiser obviously a strong chance. He's got no fun, no gain in the race, and there's this great excitement, shall we say, around the jockey booking. They're bringing in a 42-year-old from Japan, Yatoshi Yonakara, is going to come and ride this horse. He's ridden 1,500 winners. He once rode a 7-timer in Korea when he was based there. Firstly, how much do you know about him? And secondly, what do you make of the booking and the horse's chance?
Well, funny enough, he's one of my all-time favourite international jockeys. And
he's pretty good on the NRA, wasn't he?
Yeah, the NRA. Listen, it's great to have another international jockey here. I think that makes 4 for the weekend. Yeah. You throw in Michael, Rod, your Jurix, your Boss. It's just
just quickly, obviously, Boss, this is Glenn's last meeting.
Yes. I haven't spoken to him about that, but we'll see how that goes. He's got a couple of good rides, County Monte Cristo being one of them. Yep. No fun, no gain. There's a couple of, even the first emergency, St. Alwyn. Yeah. Just be careful there. If he gets to start in the Guineas, he's not the worst horse in the race over the mile, but he runs in race 2, I think, on the card, which is in the maiden over the mile. And he could be a good thing with Johnny Powell on board.
You think so? His main opposition there could be Huntsman for Lee Freeman, but St. Alwyn in the maiden, as Larry rightly referenced there, would be a strong chance. So Guinea selection for you, Top Night, but a few at value to chase him home?
Cyan Blue Vander is the each-way bet, but Top Night very hard to sort of beat on form. And Vlad Jurek. Talk about jockeys in form. We've got some good jockeys here, but geez, you'd want Vlad on your horse if you had $1 on it.
You would.
He does get them over the line.
He does. He's probably
now, I don't know what you're thinking, but my beer's getting warm and I'm getting sunburned. It's a beautiful place.
It is, isn't it?
It's glorious.
Lovely setting, and we should perhaps head inside and get ourselves a bit of grub. And well, I've got to go back and record Track Talk. So
yeah, I've got things to do myself.
Sure. But so one in each of the races then. Selections are.
I'm on the Hong Kong. I'm on Southern Legend.
Yep.
Zach Purton. I'm on Zach Purton with the Lion City Cup. Obviously on Limbs Cruiser.
Yep.
And Top Night. Unfortunately, they're the 3 horses you've almost got to pick. You can maybe throw in one other. Yep. But the whole card, 10 races. The other races are terrific. Yep. So you can have some fun.
Indeed you can. Race 6 is also a trophy race. It's the KRA Trophy as well. So an excellent card of 10 starting at 3:45. It's Limbs Cruiser for me as well. Top Night looks a pretty straightforward one, albeit he's drawn 12, and I'm going to go heart over head in the mile and Deck Collector. Let's hope he can keep it on home soil. But it will all play out in the fullness of time. Larry, thanks for joining me. We'll head inside now and we'll get you another cold one.
Cheers.